俺は汚ねえ金ではしゃいでる。過去に戻ってお前が助けたいのは
危ねえよ。
みんなを助けてくれ。
Last time on Tokyo Revengers, our protagonist Takemichi Hanagaki was sent into the past to save his middle school girlfriend Hina. Along the way, he got himself tangled up with the infamous gang leader Manjiro Sano, also known as Mikey. At the start of episode 4, we cut to Hina on the train from school. Hinata notices some students causing a commotion and swiftly scolds them to lower their voices and to take up less seats, so that an elderly woman can sit down comfortably. Hinata then invites Takemichi to her place, eager to assist him in his studies. Takemichi is thrilled at the prospect of being in Hinata's room, as it's the first time he has ever entered a girl's room. Hinata expresses her gratitude to Takemichi for helping Naoto the other day and mentions that their dad is often absent, causing Naoto to have negative feelings towards him. However, suddenly, Naoto starts talking about wanting to be like Takemichi, a police officer. This leads to Takemichi to understand why Naoto became a police officer, and he comments that Naoto will become a great police officer. Hinata observes that Takemichi seems more mature, or perhaps it's just a side of him that she hadn't seen before, sparking her curiosity to learn more about him. As they continue their conversation, fireworks suddenly light up the night sky, and Hinata takes Takemichi to the roof to enjoy the view. Takemichi savors the moment and doesn't want to return to the future, as Hinata won't be there. He reaches for her hand, but then realizes he is holding Naoto's hand, causing him to snap back to the present. Meanwhile, the story takes a turn as Takemichi wakes up in the present, tears streaming down his face. Naoto quickly realizes that his theory about the handshaking was correct, and assumes something must have changed since Takemichi's return. However, upon learning that Takemichi had shaken hands with Naoto by mistake, he becomes angry. Naoto reveals a new discovery about Takemichi's time-traveling abilities. It turns out that Takemichi is sent exactly 12 years into the past, and that for every week he spends there, a week has also passed in the present, with his body remaining in a state of suspended animation. Takemichi then mentions that he met Manjiro Sano, which puzzles Naoto as he wonders why Manjiro didn't kill him. Naoto even admits that if he had the chance, he would have killed Manjiro himself. Takemichi suggests they go and see Manjiro, as he wants to learn why Toman has changed. Naoto nods in agreement as he hears Takemichi's plan, acknowledging that it is their only hope for saving the future. Meanwhile, as they meticulously go through the documents to find any leads on Manjiro's whereabouts, Naoto suddenly spots someone unfamiliar. It is Atsushi Sendo, who has now become a prominent member of Toman's upper echelon. Naoto finds this shocking, as in his timeline, Atsushi had been arrested for stabbing Masataka Kiyomizu and then became just a small-time punk. Realizing that Takemichi must have changed the past after meeting Manjiro, they decide to reach out to Atsushi, hoping that he might be able to help arrange a meeting with Manjiro. Fortunately, Takemichi finds Atsushi's old phone number and crosses his fingers, hoping that Atsushi hasn't changed it. As he recalls Atsushi's promise that they would always be friends, Takemichi makes the call. To their relief, Atsushi answers and Takemichi sets up a meeting with him at the hostess bar Atsushi is now running. Naoto hesitantly wonders if they should be so straightforward with Atsushi, since even the police are unable to find Manjiro and it may seem suspicious. However, Takemichi is confident in their friendship and assures Naoto that it won't change that easily. As they arrive at the bar, Takemichi is momentarily taken aback by Atsushi's appearance, as he is no longer sporting his signature pompadour. Atsushi greets Takemichi warmly, revealing that he has been waiting for him all this time. He then requests to speak with Takemichi privately and leads him to the rooftop. On the rooftop, Takemichi and Atsushi reminisce about their past and the good times they shared. Takemichi comments on Atsushi's apparent success and wealth, but Atsushi states that there are some things money can't buy. He then reveals that he knows Naoto is a police officer and Hinata's little brother. In a shocking turn of events, Atsushi confesses that he was the one who pushed Takemichi onto the train tracks, but Naoto had saved him as if he knew Takemichi was going to fall. Atsushi then asks for their help in going back in time to save Manjiro and everyone else, as he believes there is no other explanation. Takemichi is stunned and refuses to believe that his friend would try to kill him. Atsushi reveals that he is now Tenta Kisaki's soldier and that everyone in Toman follows his commands, as they haven't seen Manjiro in years. He explains that Manjiro changed after Ken Ryuguji's death and pleads with Takemichi to go back in time and save him. As Atsushi finishes his plea, he tragically jumps from the rooftop, leaving Takemichi in tears. Meanwhile, on the other side of the rooftop, Tenta Kisaki is seen silently observing their conversation. Determined to save everyone, Takemichi instructs Naoto to look into the day Ken Ryuguji died and to find out Tenta Kisaki's involvement in turning Toman evil. With a new sense of purpose, Takemichi firmly decides to embark on a mission to save everyone and bring hope to the future. Before we continue Takemichi's journey, take a moment to answer the question of the day. What makes a gang strong? Is it the leader or the people being led? Comment down below your opinion to have a chance to be shouted out, and now, on to the recap. At the start of episode 5, Takemichi sets off for work, but before he can even begin his day, Hasegawa drops a bombshell on him. Unfortunately, she informs him that he has been fired due to his sudden disappearance for 2 weeks, which caused her to take the blame. Despite the shock of being fired, Takemichi starts to worry about his payment, and Hasegawa tries to calm him by assuring him that he will receive a deposit soon. However, Takemichi's thoughts quickly turn to a bigger dilemma as he contemplates whether he should tell past Hinata about the future. But Naoto, who has a bit of insight into the matter, quickly shoots down the idea. Naoto explains that Hinata may not understand the truth and may even dislike Takemichi if he were to reveal the truth to her. He goes on to say that he only believed Takemichi's story because of his previous interest in the occult. With Atsushi Sendo dead, Takemichi and Naoto have no choice but to return to the past. Naoto, who has been keeping an eye on the news, updates Takemichi on Ken Ryuguji's death. On August 3rd, 2005, Ken was involved in a biker gang fight that resulted in him being stabbed and eventually dying. The reason for the fight was due to inner strife between Manjiro and Ken's faction, but Takemichi finds it hard to believe as Ken understood Manjiro better than anyone else. Naoto, sensing there's more to the story, speculates that there must be a deeper reason for the fight. He declares that Takemichi's mission is to save Ken, which will ultimately result in Manjiro not changing, Atsushi and Hinata not dying. With a common goal in mind, Takemichi and Naoto shake hands, ready to embark on their mission to save Ken. As Takemichi opens his eyes, he suddenly finds himself in a karaoke room with a half-naked girl lying on top of him. Startled, he runs away as the room phone rings and the girl picks it up. In that moment, Takemichi realizes that his past life has dramatically changed, but he must keep this information from Hinata. However, Hinata soon appears behind him, suspicious of his strange behavior. She comments on how he has been acting differently lately and how he now appears more mature. Despite this, Hinata decides to accompany Takemichi on his journey to the Musashi Shrine, where Ken has called him to gather with the Toman gang. As they make their way there, Hinata asks Takemichi what is important to him. He reflects on the moment and realizes that his main priority is saving Hinata. Upon arriving at the shrine, they are met by hostile members of the gang who question Takemichi's presence. However, Takashi Mitsuya, the 2nd Division captain, intervenes and recognizes Takemichi as the commander's guest. While at the shrine, Ken warns Takemichi about bringing Hinata with him and calls Emma to protect her. Takemichi soon realizes that Emma is the same girl from the karaoke room, and she calls him Wussy Boy, causing Hinata to become angry and attack Takemichi. Emma then explains that she isn't interested in Takemichi, but only wants to grow faster and hoped Ken would become jealous. However, Ken only cares about Manjiro, bikes, and fighting. The meeting of Taman begins, and Manjiro eagerly wants to know the gang's perspective on the conflict with Mobius. Pachin and Peian immediately agitate Takemichi regarding the situation with Masataka Kiyomizu. However, Takashi reminds them that they were instructed to drop the topic. Nevertheless, Pachin dismisses Takashi's statement and calls him stupid. Ken promptly intervenes and urges Takemichi to not hold a grudge against Pachin, as his friend just got into trouble with Mobius, which caused the conflict. Takashi goes on to explain that Mobius's leader, Nobutaka Osanai, mistreated Pachin's friend for a trivial reason. He beat up his friend and also committed atrocities such as raping his girlfriend in front of him, taking his money, and even killing his parents and siblings. Takashi highlights that Taman dominates Shibuya, while Mobius controls Shinjuku. Manjiro then asks Pachin about his plans for the conflict. Pachin acknowledges that if they engage in a fight, Taman won't escape unscathed, but his anger and desire for revenge is too great to ignore. Manjiro already knew this, and he asks the rest of the gang if they are scared or if they think it's too much trouble to fight for Pachin's friend. The gang simply grins, revealing their unwavering support. Manjiro then passionately declares that they will crush Mobius on August 3rd during the Musashi Festival. At night, Takemichi ponders over the situation. He knows from Naoto that on August 3rd, Ken passes away due to internal conflict in Taman. However, now they're planning to fight Mobius on that day. Takemichi decides to be Ken's bodyguard, but the next day, Ken declines the offer. Undeterred, Takemichi decides to follow Ken. He trails him to a restaurant where Ken is eating with Manjiro. Manjiro gets angry because there is no flag in the kid's meal, but Ken solves the problem by pulling a flag out of his pocket. After the meal, Manjiro falls asleep and Ken carries him to the hospital, where Pachin's girlfriend is unconscious for 5 days. Her father arrives and berates them for the condition of his daughter, blaming people like them for the situation. Ken bows his head, while Manjiro refuses to do so, as they didn't do anything wrong. However, as the father continues to shout, Ken pushes his head down, telling him to stop and accepting full responsibility for the situation. The father breaks down in tears and leaves. Ken then tells Manjiro that they will deal with their problems within their own world, and that each member has important people in their lives that they cannot allow to get involved. Ken emphasizes the importance of having a heart that cares for others, and Manjiro apologizes and is grateful to have Ken by his side. As Takemichi listens behind the corner, he realizes why Manjiro changed after Ken's death, but he is confident that the two of them would never fight. This ends the 5th episode of Tokyo Revengers. The 6th episode starts out with a flashback of Ken's past. Born in the rough streets of the Shibuya red light district, Ken Ryoguji's life was far from easy. Growing up in a brothel, he never knew his father and was abandoned by his mother, a prostitute. Ken was tall for his age, and his imposing stature earned him the nickname Draken. By 5th grade, he had gotten a head tattoo and was known for his fighting skills, causing others to fear him. However, Ken's reign was challenged by the powerful Sameyama crew that dominated the neighborhood. They had once defeated Ken, but now they had a task for him. Sameyama informed Ken of a new kid named Mikey from 7th Middle School who was becoming cocky, and ordered him to bring Mikey to him. Despite his fear, Ken obeyed and set off to find Mikey. But what Ken found was not what he expected. Mikey was much smaller than him, and Ken wondered if he should still fight him. He informed Mikey of the situation, but to Ken's surprise, Mikey agreed to come with him since Ken had asked nicely. Upon arriving at Sameyama, Mikey shocked everyone by immediately running and jump-kicking Sameyama, beating him and scaring the rest. Mikey recognized Ken as Draken from 4th Middle School and was curious why he was hanging out with those guys. Mikey wished to be friends with Ken, and the two bonded over their shared experiences on the streets. Leaving the flashback, we cut back to Takemichi. Takemichi, driven by his curiosity to learn more about Mobius, decides to return to the present. With determination, he approaches Naoto and explains his suspicion that Mikey and Draken won't end up in a conflict. Hence, he requests Naoto to help him track down Nobutaka Osanai to get more answers about the Taman-Mobius fight. Naoto agrees, and the two embark on their search. As they reach the construction site, they're caught off guard as they witness a heated argument between Nobutaka and his boss, who is berating him for being late. To their surprise, they discovered that Nobutaka used to be the commander of Mobius. Eager to know the truth, they approach Nobutaka, who initially refuses to talk about the Taman fight. However, after some prodding, he denies any involvement in Ken's death, revealing that someone had planned the internal conflict between Taman. As he prepares to leave, Nobutaka shares that his life has been ruined, and if Ken didn't die, he wouldn't be in this situation. Takemichi, observing the shaken expression on Nobutaka's face, believes him and realizes that someone has used him to cause a rift in Taman. Takemichi then returns to the past with a mission to warn Mikey about the trap that has been set for Taman. He finds Atsushi on a bike and is overjoyed to see that he is still alive. Atsushi shares his dream of becoming a hairstylist, and Takemichi supports him, telling him that he believes in him. Next, Takemichi heads to Manjiro, who is surrounded by Ken, Pachin, and Pan. He tries to convince Manjiro to call off the fight with Mobius, explaining that it's a trap set by someone. However, Pachin becomes agitated and warns Takemichi to keep quiet. Despite the opposition, Takemichi persists in his efforts to prevent the fight, but Manjiro remains firm in his decision. Just then, Ken stops Pachin from hitting Takemichi, suggesting that they should investigate Mobius further. As they are discussing, Nobutaka Osanai arrives, declaring that Taman should respect him as he is 2 years older. Pachin becomes angry and rushes towards him, but Nobutaka knocks him down with a punch, joking about renaming the group as the Middle School Baby Alliance. He then announces that he has brought the fight to Taman, summoning the rest of Mobius to surround the Taman members. Will Taman make it out of this fight? How will Manjiro respond to this ambush? Find out on our next recap of Tokyo Revengers Season 1.